We have made this unbelievable commitment that we are going to care for the living and the dead, and we're going to do it simultaneously.
And, like I've said before, the future of embalming will be determined by how the embalmers treat each other.
The most special things you can have in a funeral, and the things that you'll always remember for families, are the things that actually don't cost any money.
People throughout history, from Neanderthal burial down to the death today, people are going to care for their dead in a consistent manner with how they live their life.
For 50 years, I've said to families, you should come with us. It's sacred space, whether it's a graveside, a fireside, a cryptside, doesn't matter. Come with us. You'll be improved by it. And I'm batting 1,000 on that. No one's ever said, I wish I didn't do that. So I know that it works for people to do that, to go that distance with their dead.
This is Dominic Jude from Trinity, Malaysia.
This is Damien Jude from Malaysia, and you're listening to Undertaking the Podcast.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Undertaking the Podcast. I'm Brian Waters, your host, here at international headquarters of the Undertaking the Podcast studios, which, being a mobile office tonight, sits back at the mortuary's office. Had a few tasks to finish up, and I was able to pull a new episode for you. Now, we're doing a lot of episodes real soon with a lot of posting of back episodes because we're gearing up for the big deal in Las Vegas. Now, we're working with the folks that are throwing this event, like one of our recent guests on the Dirt, Tim and Katie. They've got a really big to-do Monday night, and I believe return home, and our friends there at the Dirt show right here on Undertaking the Podcast is going to, I believe they're pushing this event, and then it is a LGBTQ plus event. But what does that mean? That means that it's inclusive and open to everyone, but it's kind of a theme, I think. So I don't know what the event is, but I'm excited about it. Folks have been talking about it since Baltimore. So Tim, this was my word. I've told you I've been pushing this thing for a long, long time. This is one of the things I've been talking about. And I also hear that I know Parting Stone's doing an event coming up, I believe, it was either that Tuesday after that Monday. They're in Vegas at the Big Deal, right? That's what we're all going to. It's the most registered event that I hear about, usually in Vegas. I can't tell you about this year, but the network is going, and we are going in force, and we will be everywhere. And when I say we're not naming ourselves other than Ryan's not going, and we have a replacement for about 24 hours. And then after that, we're going to pass the Ryan hat. And folks are going to be working with me. We're going to have guest hosts. If you can find me and pin the tail on Brian, we're going to podcast together, because I'm going to be mobile and all over the trade show floor, both the home base and the Kellerman family of vehicles, as always, with my good friends there at Butler Coach, and Ron's mom, Paul-Ann Butler. So thank you to the Kellerman family of vehicles. They've got some brand new products that the network will be videoing, checking out, bringing people into the booth to see. So these are brand new things that I do not know of, other than I've asked, can I podcast from them? Because as mobile as our show has been in the past, and as much change as we've had in the show in 5 years, we're embracing the change. And we're turning the show over to the listeners, guys. This is a big announcement. Folks, we're all brothers and sisters in Undertaking. Let's be real. This show is so important to me, and there was a delay in broadcasting it because I didn't know when the right time to tell you about my friends Dominic Jude and his brother Damien. And it's like, I forgot their names. No, I'm not. I see their faces. I spent time with them on the beach in Cancun, Mexico, with our feet in the sand. And we sat there with little clouds in the sky and the lights and bands and noise in the background, and we shared our experiences as not on our identity as embalmers, as men with brothers who work with our families in Malaysia and Indiana. And it seems like it's such a big deal, but we have the technology to do it. I'm sitting here at my father's desk that he can't get to because Dad doesn't. I'm not supposed to tell you that about Dad. You know, things are tough in life, right? You know, we fade in, we fade out, and my father's 76. He's strong and he's doing well. He's not as mobile as he was, so he's just not active and out in the community as he was, so that means he's not at this desk. And while he's still alive, I kind of carry a lot of grief sitting here because it's not mine. I don't even know what to do with it. But it'll be all right. So as I randomly roll into this intro, this is season 2, folks. We've had a lot of questions on what are you doing? 500 episodes? What are you changing? That works. Ask Texas. Let's go back and do it again. Not Texas and embalming laws. We've got a lot to talk about Texas in your own show. Well, there's just a lot of observation on Texas, but I don't need to bring that up. But we're going to be having a show about, I will tease it just a little bit since I saw the squirrel, y'all. Taxation without representation in death care, and somebody's state gets to go first. So Indiana's gone through the ringer in the last 5 years, so Indiana's getting a break. Things are pretty good here. We've gone and bothered Illinois. Things are pretty awesome over there with their new executive director. They've switched their convention to July, so unless they've ate each other by since then, like I hope it's July next year because we might come back. You guys are awesome, so love you all over there, and I need to send some letters to you. So throw some love out on the phone. I just got done texting an embalmer out of the blue after I left her a message. Maybe talk once a year. Ryan Ballard has instilled to me that it's important that if we get a twang or something, just reach out and do it, Brian. Oh, there they are again. And just let them know that they matter. And I got several paragraphs back that I can't read during an intro. That's meaningful and that's intentional, and that's people that care about something, and that's a common cause, which is living better through our death rituals. So as we have matured here, I've had a rough birth into not being a baby undertaker, so I don't know what I want to call myself because I don't want to label it, but I'm not quite a baby anymore since kind of my mentor's dead. You know, that's Todd Van Beck. It's not easy to talk about, but next year, maybe after a year, I'll give you everything I got, and everyone who's waiting that has gone on air, I may introduce you to before next year, and I'll tell you how the funeral went from the perspective of the network before then, because the tidbits I got with the people I met that came to a funeral to see what it was kind of changed me as a person. So we got more to talk about with all those people who are wondering where the hell Brian put that episode. It's here, guys. I just can't go to it yet. We got a lot of work to do first. So September is going to be a big month, guys. We've plugged a lot. Here's the weird part of the intro because we got to pay some bills. Let me turn some things up. I'm going to hit some sounds here. I don't have my headphones on, so the podcast is a business. Undertaking the Podcast Undertaking the Podcast LLC is a media company based in Eaton, Indiana. It's a real company. We have a retail merchant, maybe not a merchant certificate. We're not retail. I don't think we have that. Whoops. But seriously, we have a business identity. We pay taxes, and we broke the company being silly, giving our money away, and we learned along the way doing that we can do this a lot better if we bring all our friends in, because it's not just the Ryan and Brian show. That was season 1, us growing as undertakers. And in the end, we left behind some friends. Ron King, Tony Karsnia. It's a minimum. We talked about John Brayboy and some others, many others that were missed. There's a lack of female presence and maybe diversity. and that's as we grow in comfort, but we've got a lot on tape to get out real soon, that every time we start asking really hard questions to where Ryan and I are uncomfortable, we get redirected by undertakers that go, why are you trying to be different? We're all the same. Quit asking those questions and tell me why we're the same, because that's easy and it's kind of love. And it's like, ooh. It gives you perspective as an undertaker. There's something to be said for sitting down and taking a beating when you're foolish, because everyone notices. I take them all the time, folks, and I put them out here publicly. And it's okay. As I go through my anxieties, that is no longer depression. I'm taking care of myself. People worry, so we'll put this out. It's a long ramble of a show because I want to draw out what's next. People worry about my health. I'm down 65, 70 pounds since the first of the year. I don't drink alcohol. I really like water. I don't eat a lot. I sleep 4 hours a day. Every day, once a week, I will have a full recharge, and I do a lot of sitting still at night, and that's like what I call it. So I don't need to go spiritual, woo, religious, or none of that with you. So as we get into this episode to talk about how we're the same, I'm going to do something that we've never done in the history of undertaking the podcast, because this is intentional ad placement. Now, the episode that you're about to hear with Damien and Dominic Jude, the embalming brothers in Malaysia that sought out the trade of how to embalm so they could take it back to Malaysia and go, is this better? And everyone went, dear God, yes. Now we'll see what happens as they take on new rituals, if they use embalming to create new rituals, or if Stewie, it's my wife. She's waiting on me to come home, so Charles must be in bed. It's a long process for us. So from 8 to 10 p.m. is bedtime, and I'm the official child care provider of Undertaking the Podcast. Paige Waters is at the helm. So I stay away, record your intro, and give you a very strange lead-in to a very special show with Damien, Dominic Jude, those two embalmers. But this episode would not have happened without my friends at Frigid Fluid. Now, Frigid Fluid is a chemical company that's not a sponsor of Undertaking the Podcast. Okay? But I need to tell you what happened, that my friend Nelson Sanchez is just a real human being that's just a nice guy. Now, whether you like him or not is none of my business, but he's never wronged me. And he included me in this trip to Cancun, where I got to meet people from all across this world that did not judge me for not knowing them in Spanish, but I put my arms out and went, I didn't know anything, but I'll tell you what my life is like. And they went, thank you. It didn't always apply, but the fact that I would try to do something that was not as hard as what they did by far, but they wanted to know because I took the time to come to them, and they're going, why him? And I'm like, yeah, I said the same darn thing. And we got together and we made a moment in Cancun. And this is one of those moments recorded. So you're going to feel my nervous anxiety in this, trying to not to talk too much. And in my efforts to not talk too much, I probably not talk too much. So I hope these two fellas make it the 40 hours or whatever it is to, would be less than 40 to Las Vegas for this. This would be okay for them. So I hope to see them in Las Vegas. This is my gift to them. But this episode isn't sponsored by Frigid Fluid because I'm not allowed to tell you that. My phone ringer's on. That's my text message. I'm not supposed to tell you the inside baseball of Undertaking the Podcast. No, although we have other sponsors and fluid companies that want to sponsor, we don't, because Pierce has been here the whole time. I've been using Pierce fluid in my funeral home, and I don't even have one, but I've been trained on it, and I've even cheated on Pierce. I'm not brand loyal. I'm loyal to what works. So I can tell you about medicine firming, and I can tell you about other products, but I really can't tell you about Frigid because Ben Schmidt hasn't got my order in yet. I will, and I'll tell you about it. But right now I'm telling you about Pierce because they're carrying this episode, and they've got a lot of cool things coming up. Here's what's cool. There's not going to be a lot of infighting here because what does the salesman from Frigid say? You can use our chemicals together. Do they say that at Pierce? I don't really know, because I kind of use Pierce as a standalone product. Like Triton 28 just works with some water correctives. So I'm not mixing it with stuff, but you can. You embalmers know that. So anyway, Pierce supports us, and others support us, like Nelson Sanchez, Benjamin Schmidt, Dr. Damon De La Cruz at Frigid. Now, Frigid has its ups and downs, and they may sponsor us, but I can't tell you about that. I hit a button, might not be cash register because they didn't pay us. So anyway, thank you, Pierce. And Pierce has got some secrets. Oh, some old-fashioned ones and some brand new ones. And Pierce listens to Embalmers. That's all I can tell you. They don't care that they're on the Frigid ad, and Frigid doesn't care on the show that they helped create with their friends from Malaysia. Do the folks in Malaysia use Frigid? I don't know. I think they may tell you on the show. But if they don't care because they connect with other embalmers. That's what season 2 is about, guys. I got there in 14 minutes. So 14 minutes of this is just me, and it's meaningless to me. But I just wanted to tell you how important these 2 embalmers are to me. Now, if they stop embalming tomorrow, they'll still answer the phone when you call for help. You'll just tell them to do something different. But please, you got to tell your undertaker what you need. So here we go. Let's get into the show. Brought to you by Pierce, Kellerman, and kind of Frigid for free, but that's for Nelson, since Nelson's a man that'll tell you what you need. So he's a good lad in my book. So here we go. It's Undertaking the Podcast and Embalming in Malaysia, trained in the Philippines. Season 2 is different. It's not weird at all. It's normal because it's life. Love y'all. As Ryan Ballard says, we see you and we don't forget you. It just takes us a minute to get to you. All right, love y'all. Here's Damien and Dominic Jude on Undertaking the Podcasting Network.
Well, hey everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of Undertaking the Podcast. I am your host, Brian Waters, funeral director and embalmer from Indiana, and I am unfortunately flying solo without my good buddy Ryan Ballard because he had to work again. But I am all the way down in Cancun, Mexico for the second beach cast which is the fault of Nelson Sanchez, my good friend over at Frigid Fluid Company. He's one of their sales reps and really the brainchild of the conference that I am at and been asked to speak at, which is called the Embalm Better Conference. Nelson, is this your fourth? Third. Fourth will be next year, and you guys will be looking forward to that, I'm sure. But so this conference is about embalming, about our lives as funeral directors and embalmers, and it's so great to have this opportunity to be in Mexico, to be somewhere completely different, to talk to people that have, I don't know. Let's find out. Our guests, Damien and Dominic Jude. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for having us, Brian. It's a pleasure to be here.
Tell us where you're from, guys.
We're from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia.
Okay.
Yeah, Southeast Asia.
Okay, so I'm going to do our favor for our American listeners. Although we buy a ton of stuff from Malaysia, they probably don't know exactly where it is. So if we're throwing a dart at the world globe, where are you guys?
We're right in between Singapore and Thailand, actually.
Okay, Singapore and Thailand. So
small little country in between both of those. Yeah.
You say small, but it looked pretty big on the map.
Well, it's pretty small if you think about it. Yeah.
Okay, how many people are in Malaysia?
30 million.
Okay, I mean not terribly small, but okay. So tell us a little bit about growing up there in Malaysia. What was life like?
You can go first.
We grew up in a pretty conservative society, and Malaysia is like a melting pot of different cultures. So we have a lot of Muslims, we have Christians, we have Indians and Chinese, and then we have a mixture of other races as well. So that taught us to kind of like blend in and mix with everyone.
Sure.
And yeah, it was fun growing up in Malaysia.
It sounds like a melting pot, just like the United States in a way.
It really is. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. It is, yeah.
But I would suppose, regionally based, you're going to have larger demographics. Exactly. Obviously here, we're going to have North and South Americans.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's quite obvious. So, tell us about your kind of initial introduction into funeral service. Did you know about this as kids?
So basically, this was the family business that was started by our dad back in 2003. someone introduced this to him, and then he sort of like started it, and then got us all involved, and that sort of developed our passion into this industry. And things just got rolling from there, and we sort of developed and look forward to how we're going to build this up, how we're going to improvise stuff like this in Malaysia, because back when my dad started it, we were like basic. There was no knowledge about embalming and stuff like that in Malaysia, so that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to get this next level.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you say there wasn't much knowledge of embalming, you couldn't just go to another funeral home maybe and or even out at another city.
Oh, you could not, because even in Malaysia the knowledge of embalming wasn't there yet, so people were using primitive methods of preserving bodies, stuff like refrigeration, dry ice, those kind of stuff. Embalming was just like doing a little cavity aspiration and inserting some formaldehyde in the cavities, and that was it.
Okay.
But then of course that wouldn't give you the best result. Bodies wouldn't hold up for a little more than 2 days.
Okay. So without, let's say, Western embalming knowledge, folks were still trying to delay natural decomposition in their own ways.
Exactly.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it only makes sense then that you guys would seek other ways and possibly just different ways and
Exactly.
just different and sometimes better ways. So
Correct.
Yeah.
Awesome. So your dad started the funeral home 2003.
Yes.
When did you guys start getting involved? Were you working with him then?
I started when he started the funeral company. I was with him already, and we started during the inception and the initial stages of it. Damien joined much later, around 5 or 6 years later when he graduated from high school. Yeah, but we developed the same passion because we were in it as kids, and we grew up in the funeral home.
Yeah, we were like 11, 12 years old, and we would be watching people. We would be watching people being embalmed, and
assisting with
that's
wigs,
where
stuff
the
like that.
interest kind of developed.
Okay.
And we would go out and help them. And our dad didn't hold us back from anything. He didn't have that kind of taboo where people used to tell him, no, you shouldn't expose them too young. But he kind of knew we were already headed on that path.
Yeah.
So he kind of wanted to just make us he wanted to just motivate us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we took it, and the passion kind of grew from there. And it developed into a really deep passion for both of us.
Okay.
So, today it's something we both share interest in.
Okay.
And it's something that we both want to develop. And we want to bring the knowledge of embalming to not only other embalmers in Malaysia, but also the families, because they don't know a lot about embalming as well.
Right.
They think that it's something that never existed. Like, if you talk about a decomp body in Malaysia, they won't, like, what you mentioned in the conference earlier, they'll think that no way, we can't see the body at all. But they don't know that it's possible. It's just they don't know that there's that option there.
They don't even know.
They don't even know.
They don't know.
That's the whole thing. Yeah.
Oh wow! And then so for you guys, your knowledge base. Once you knew that this existed, you went, I have to figure it out.
That's right.
Exactly.
We did.
It's so funny that we're having this conversation because I was literally having something on a different topic, but very similar with my co-host Ryan Ballard. I was telling him, when you realize that there's something else out there in the world and it exists, you want to try it. You're like, you want to learn about it. So
Definitely,
why would that not apply to embalming?
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay, before we dive into embalming specifically too much, let's talk about culturally in Malaysia. You talked about the different ethnic groups or religious groups, really. Is there a close tie to that base, the religious base in the country? Is it really close, or is it kind of maybe their connection to the religion not so?
In Malaysia, religious practices are still very well observed.
Okay.
Yeah, and people respect religion a lot, and they still follow their religious customs a lot.
They're quite strong. They hold true to their traditions.
That's right. What they were taught from the previous
What their
generations,
roots are,
they still.
Okay, so with that connection, then, is it transposing into their selection of funeral service? They say, this is what we do as a people. And when I say we as a people, it could be my Muslim faith or my Christian faith. So we're going to select services based on that. Is that what you two see in Malaysia?
It definitely is, but for the Muslim community in Malaysia specifically, they don't engage with funeral directors because they have their religious sect who have a little group that handles funerals for them. So they don't use the services of funeral directors, but all other religious faiths in Malaysia do.
Okay. So those faiths coming to you gentlemen to inquire about funeral services.
That's right.
Are they selecting then things that maybe their parents did, then their grandparents did?
Exactly. We see that a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, so when you come in and you're adding something new like embalming, are they going, okay, we can take this and add it to what we're already doing?
Yes, they do. They do. And a lot of them seem to appreciate the embalming that we do because the end result of it is worth the wait, and it's worth what they're getting. Yeah.
So explain to me, and this may be hard to do, but when someone, that is used to one way of seeing their loved ones, which is unembalmed or embalmed, you mentioned the word primitively or prepared primitively, and that was a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It's not using technology and science that we know of as today, so
Exactly.
it's not a derogatory word in any way, but what are you seeing as reactions? You remember when I walked up to the machine and turned around and gave you that face?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Are you seeing these faces from your
that's
families?
the exact expression we get most of the time. Because people seem to appreciate what we do when they notice that there actually is a technology that can help us to help their loved ones look way better than what they would look if they were to hire someone who doesn't do embalming.
Right.
Yeah.
And in America we get mixed up on, and we have this argument back and forth on who is it for? Is it for the dead? Is it for the living? Well,
It's for the living.
we know it's for
Yeah.
the living.
Living, yeah.
Yeah,
Of course.
and it's enhancing their connection to their loved one
Exactly.
with the time they're spending. It's not,
Yeah.
in my opinion, when they have this experience, they're not going ooh, right?
Yeah.
Or there's not that repulsion from nature in a way.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so let's kind of, I'm trying to think where to go here. This is where I hand it off to the co-host because I'm thinking 3 steps ahead here. But
Yeah.
so what we're seeing in America, the reason I ask this question is because our culture now is so transient. We don't stay where we grew up. Is it like that in Malaysia? Where you were born? Are you staying there, or do you?
Yeah, we still live where we were born, which is
Yeah.
in the capital, Kuala Lumpur. Yeah.
Is that kind of culturally similar, or do you guys grow up, get educated, and
Yeah, that's how it usually works. We
Yeah.
grow up, get educated, and
People are moving with the times, or
they are moving like
or
we
else
are?
we're trying to get them to move with the times.
Okay.
I guess, yeah.
So in America, what I'm saying is like I would grow up, I'd get educated, then I would move across the country,
Okay.
and the connection to my family and what they did, like religion and
Would get
holidays,
severe.
when get-togethers, they're not as often. They're
Okay.
like this. They're vacations
Okay.
for just a couple days, and we're finding that with that distance of connection, they don't have a connection to those traditional funeral services. So what happens is grandma and grandpa had a funeral service and
Okay.
their kids, they picked that for them because they went to that, that was part, they were connected with it.
Yeah.
They
grew up
go-
seeing that. Yeah.
Right, they go to church. They know what rituals, they know the value in their rituals. But when there's not a connection and they choose that anyway, then they kind of go, ooh, I don't want that anymore.
Yeah.
So in America, we're trying to find new rituals. And where I was trying to get this buggy going to was in America, we're still trying to find new ways to find meaning, which is exactly what you guys are doing, right?
Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
So in America, embalming's kind of I don't know the term, really an appropriate term, because it's looked down upon by so many, but supported silently by so many embalmers in America. We silently go about our duties because families ask us to help, and then we do it. So
that's a major issue that we have. What you just mentioned, it's looked down upon by so many, but silently also admired by so many. Yeah. So
and they ask you for it, right?
that's right. They ask us for it, and once they see the end result, they're pleased. But then again, they're not the kind of people who go and voice it out and tell everyone that, hey, this embalming is good, you should go with embalming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because different people have different views, and some families may rather not do embalming at all.
Yeah.
They would opt for cremation, stuff like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
The alcohol's flowing, fellas.
Yeah.
That's all right. That's all right. It
Yeah.
makes for good ambiance in the
Yeah.
area. So let's see. Trying to think what I want to know about Malaysia and you guys. So let's talk about kind of the government and culturally the rules around funeral homes. Can anyone just have one?
You can have your business registered and just start one, but then getting licensing would be an issue. Like I mentioned to you earlier in the day, zoning is a big problem that we
right.
have. Yeah. And if we have it in a specific area, the residents around don't want to have it, but yet they do look forward to professional funeral services when their time comes, when they need one, and they expect you to respond in like the shortest time possible, but yet they don't want you in the neighborhood.
They want you in like a different city.
Yeah.
But when someone dies and they're lying on the floor getting cold, they want you there like in seconds.
Seconds. Right?
Yeah, they
Yeah,
want-
you're right, and that's
Yeah.
the same experience in America.
Mhm.
And you were asking about zoning, and I was saying, in here we see protests like over a crematory.
Oh, we get a lot of protests, trust me,
Oh,
in Malaysia. Yeah, if someone's going to start a funeral home, even if it's in a commercial area, we had that problem once. We had massive protests. People were against it. They approached the town councils, the ministers, in fact, trying to get us shut down. But the minister said, like, hey, we don't have a say in this. They're doing something absolutely legal. There's nothing wrong with that.
What's funny is that like where our funeral home is, like we have a cemetery just like
And a crematory, like 200 meters from
200
us.
meters from where we are,
Okay.
and it's within a residential area as well.
Yeah, there are
so-
houses that overlook the cemetery, and they
Yeah.
don't have an issue with that. But they have an issue with a funeral home in the area. So
Yeah.
that's a big problem, a big challenge that we have.
that is a challenge
It is a
because
challenge.
they keep calling
Exactly.
that's right.
Yeah.
because you wouldn't be there if they wouldn't call.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, okay, wow, that's the third side of the coin that we talked about
That's right, that's
this
right.
week, and it's hard to get a grasp on what it really is because we saw it in America
Yeah.
during COVID. New York City has less crematories than like my area, and that's silly. And we saw massive delays, and I know we spoke about. Let's pause COVID for now because we got way too down far the line.
Yeah.
So we're going back to the funeral homes. You can open one, but licensing is trouble. The public support is trouble.
Exactly.
Is education available in Malaysia?
Not at all in Malaysia. So education
at
has
all.
to be sought somewhere else. The closest in Southeast Asia in our region would be the Philippines.
Okay.
So most of the Malaysian funeral homes send representatives to the Philippines to pick up embalming and stuff like that. Yeah.
So I know, but our listeners don't. Where did you go?
We were from the Philippines. We both
Went to-
graduated from the
Yeah.
Philippines.
What is the name? What is the name of the school?
It's the Pacific Center of Advanced Studies in Cebu City,
Okay.
south of the Philippines.
Cebu City, yeah.
Okay.
We had
So-
a great time there. There were great instructors. They graduated from Cyprus College, so they
Oh.
were really great in sharing their knowledge, and we learned a great deal from them.
A great deal from them. Like,
So tell us about the atmosphere with embalming in the Philippines because it's a little different from what I know.
So the atmosphere of embalming in the Philippines is an awesome atmosphere because people are like, they're not stingy with knowledge. They just share whatever knowledge they have, their techniques, the different ways to make things work. And embalming is a regulated profession in the Philippines, strictly regulated. I mean, like the Department of Health oversees it, and yeah, they really have guidelines, and they have continuing education for embalming and stuff like that.
and they're very supportive of each other. That's something that's nice too. They're very supportive of each other, and everybody knows each other, and they kind of move together in that sense to make
Yeah.
embalming better for their entire community.
And they're constantly improving. It's not
They
like they
are.
stop and
That's
then
right.
just do regular embalming. They're constantly looking at ways to make things better, ways to improve themselves, better chemicals, better techniques,
Yeah,
better
in whatever way it's
machines,
better
yeah.
for them, and whatever works for them. Like you mentioned, whatever may work for you may not work for me.
Right.
Whatever works for me may not work for you. So they're finding the best ways possible for them, and I guess both of us, we're finding the best ways possible for us back in Malaysia.
Right.
'Cause
We
wanna
picked up a
give
lot
them-
of our techniques from the Philippines, and we owe it to them because those guys are like awesome. Yeah.
We did. We're proud. We're proud of.
Yeah.
We're proudly
Well,
educated. in
I
Philippines.
hope they hear this for sure.
I sure do hope so too.
Shout
yeah.
out to them.
Shout
So
out to
keep
them,
doing
yeah.
the good work because their reputation in the Philippines is worldwide. It's
Yeah.
not
It is.
just
It's
over there
worldwide.
because
Yeah.
a little funeral
Oh, there are
director from
Filipino
nowhere.
embalmers all over the world. Trust
Yeah.
me.
They are. Yeah.
Yeah, they are. They
Even
really
in
are.
Singapore, a great number of the embalmers actually come from the Philippines.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So, one of the criticisms of embalming in the United States is they say that if it was so respectful and so gentle, you would let people watch it.
Okay.
You guys have a little story to tell on this.
We do. Yeah.
Let's hear it.
Okay, so when we were trained in the Philippines, when we were receiving our formal training, it was we were new to this as well because we found out that embalming can be viewed by the family. The entire embalming process can be viewed by the family over there, which was sort of like a culture shock to us because back at home we were telling families like, no way, you can't watch the embalming. It's not safe. It's not we don't advise you to. We don't.
We still
encourage
don't
you
allow
to,
people
Yeah, we still
to-
don't
Sure,
allow.
Yeah.
sure.
But-
That would be the same in America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in Philippines, they have this little waiting room with a glass panel, and the families technically can watch us doing stuff, so that they feel at ease and they know that we're handling their loved ones with so much care and so
With
much
absolute
respect.
care, yeah.
Yeah. So what that is
No pressure at all.
transparency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy, the pressure's got to be turned up to 10. You don't want to drop a thing.
Exactly.
You know, and
Yeah.
and that is probably the highest standard of bombing care
Of course.
in
That's
the world, right there. Would you guys agree?
Of course.
100%.
And I think that's something that we all can aspire to, is just to be better in general.
Of course.
But we slam doors in, just I think people do in general when it's we're not used to it. So in America, and in Malaysia, you wouldn't be used to it either.
Of course.
The
We're not
families
used to it.
watching
Yeah.
it.
Of course.
We're not used to it at all.
Yeah, and in America, we have to specifically write out who's allowed in our care center, so
Okay.
it's not
Okay.
even an option unless our facilities are built for that. But that's what the Philippines did; they had that glass divider, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So were families following them, like the mortuary area would come retrieve their loved one?
Well,
and-
it was like about 1 in 30 would actually come and witness the embalming. Not all the time.
Right.
Yeah, but there are people who request, and there are some who just want to witness like the start of the process.
Sure.
And then they
And
leave
then after
after
that they
5 or
leave,
10
yeah.
minutes.
Yeah, it is. Do you guys find it's important that the families just want to know that where they are? You know what I mean?
A lot of families want that. They just want to know that their loved one is in good hands.
Yeah.
They want to know where their loved ones are at, and the loved ones are being treated with the best care possible.
That's one of the things I've done for a long time, is just let the family know, hey, I'm back with mom.
Exactly. We do that a lot
Yeah.
too. We let them know we're back. We're about to get started. It may take us some time. Please bear with us. Yeah.
Sure. Sorry, guys, there's spotlights. I thought it was aliens for a second, and I thought Ryan Ballard was going to miss it. But we've got a storm brewing over here on our beach. The beach is literally, 10 sandals away.
That's right.
The alcohol's flowing over there. But the resort is supposedly sold out, and there's a lot of space here, isn't there?
Yeah.
So what is it? Is this the third time coming over for this conference, or
It's
second?
my first time in the conference, but Damien, he's been here twice. He was
Yep.
here last year in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
Yeah.
I came for the one in Puerto Rico last year, which was epic.
Yeah.
And, well, I
How's
guess
this one been?
Oh, it's amazing.
Ah.
It's awesome, yeah. Off the charts.
So your first time?
Yeah, first time.
What do you think?
Oh, it's good. It's good. I really learned a lot, and yeah, it's great to have the opportunity to share knowledge and to hear from other embalmers as well.
I love listening to you guys because it was like, I'm drawing these parallels. It's there's something about embalmers. You get them together, and language barrier or not,
That's
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just blending and
it's
Yeah,
like
that
we've known
feeling
each
is
other
awesome.
for years.
Yeah.
It was awesome, yeah.
So let's talk. What would a funeral service look like? Let's just do a Christian funeral service in Malaysia. What would that look like?
So 80% of the community that we serve are Christians,
Okay.
largely Catholics. So a funeral service would be a retrieval, an embalming, a wake at home for maybe 2 or 3 days, where they allow public to come and visit, pay
At
their
home.
respects, and then we would proceed for a church service because, like I mentioned, religious beliefs are still pretty strong in Malaysia. So we would then transfer the casket to a church for a proper funeral service, and then head on to cremation or a cemetery for a gravesite.
What's kind of the ratio of cremation and burial?
Well, we're seeing more like 60 to 70% cremation now
Okay.
over burial. But the main reason for that is because land is scarce back in Malaysia. Yeah, so land is an issue, so cemeteries are limited.
Okay.
So most people opt for cremation nowadays.
And being that they're limited, is there a large price difference?
Of course,
There
a
is
huge price
really
difference. now,
large
yeah.
price difference.
That's what we see here in the metropolitan areas where there is no extra space because
Exactly.
it's used.
Yeah.
It's very expensive to be
Yeah.
buried, and many aren't.
Similar situation we are in because we're right smack in the capital, and land is scarce, like I said, because everything's being used for development. But towards the rural areas, towards the outskirts of town, you still have cemeteries that are run by churches, cemeteries that are run by associations, and those are still available, but then again, it's limited. So people in the outskirts, they still opt for burial because that's the way to go, and the city folk prefer cremation over burial.
Okay, well, I would say that's similar in the United States as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and even in the capital city, some of those cemeteries are very zonal with their with how they allow people to be buried or not.
Okay.
So they're like, so we have an ID card in Malaysia, and it depends on what address that ID card carries. So if your ID card doesn't carry this address, you cannot be buried here.
Okay.
So that's
how it works.
kind of how it works.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
And then automatically the family has to opt for a cremation or find out some other options that's available.
okay. So okay.
Because if they want to opt for a private cemetery, the price is like almost 300%
Okay.
higher
Yeah.
than the government ones.
Yeah,
the
and so
national ones.
in the U.S. you're going to see that as well. So with private, for-profit cemeteries, they're going to be quite a bit more. So
Exactly,
2 to
yeah.
3 times.
Yeah.
So we see similar then. When it comes to finding products for your families, are there certain things that they're always asking for that? Yeah, like I'm trying to think, like caskets. What are you providing to families? Maybe that I don't even know about is what I'm thinking.
I think what we provide is pretty similar to what you guys have
Okay.
here. The usual stuff: caskets, obituaries, hearses, limousines for family members, and
Okay.
stuff like that. Yeah,
Floral arrangements.
Okay.
keepsakes,
Yeah.
those kind of stuff. Yeah, urns. Yeah.
So what are the difficulties in getting like American products?
It's not that difficult, but see, stuff like caskets, we have the imported ones. We have American caskets on sale, but most of our families still opt for wooden caskets. Back in Malaysia, we still use 90% wooden caskets, and most of those are made locally because we have local suppliers who do them. So,
Okay.
so yeah, they prefer to go with wooden caskets compared to metal ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was
We
wondering
rarely use metal
because
caskets.
the embalming chemicals
Mhm.
you can't get like all the American companies.
We still use the American companies embalming chemicals. We use ESCO products.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're one of the only companies that
that uses American products.
uses American products
No
because
kidding.
some of the other companies
They
they
just
mix
use-
the
they
they
mix
mix the
formaldehyde
solution
on their own,
themselves.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I do know there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
So did you guys ever get into mixing yourself?
Of course, in the initial stages
Yeah.
we did that, but then we found out that the end result was not that
Great.
great. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
in terms of preservation and how the body looks.
In terms
like,
of appearance, more than preservation. Yeah.
yeah,
It doesn't
Okay.
give us the
post
best
embalming results
yeah.
weren't that great.
Because, like I said, visitations are held for 3 days, sometimes 5 days, sometimes even 7 days, sometimes even a week, waiting for people to get back from abroad. So we have to ensure that the quality of that appearance lasts for 7 days.
And, do you return to the home to check?
Of course, we do periodically. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's something I would probably do too.
Yeah.
So when it comes to embalming, what is your guys' concerns? And I know that was a super broad question, but so is it when we think about embalming, and you guys are here, you guys are taking in the knowledge. Where is your focus? Like, are you looking for like products that are doing something different? Are you looking for techniques? Are you looking to like talk about just kind of funeral service theory? Where's your passion lying here?
Products and techniques would make a lot of sense because both work hand in hand. So if you have the right product and you don't have the right techniques in applying it, then it's not going to give you the best result. And vice versa. If you have the right techniques and you don't have the right products, it's not going to give you a good result either.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has to work hand in hand. Yeah.
So I would assume, is Malaysia temperate, very similar to this, climate-wise?
Malaysia is a lot more hot and humid than this.
Much more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
much
Okay.
more.
So the conditions of those bodies coming into your care, are they similar to some of the things that we've been seeing here?
Actually, they're much worse because some of the bodies that you guys have showed us in the presentations earlier, even after a delayed period of 18 days, still looks pretty good to us.
That's
'Cause
what I
if
was-
it, yeah, because if it was 18 days in Malaysia, that body would have
Oh, you
been-
wouldn't get that.
You wouldn't get
Oh,
that.
yeah, I
You wouldn't
know.
get that.
It would
Yeah.
have been 3 times worse.
Oh, yeah. Even in
You
2
would
or
have had-
3 days,
Yeah, you
right?
would have
Yeah.
had maggots and stuff like that coming out already because it's hot. It's hot. Yeah.
And so I'm sure this is going to be a factor for keeping a body post-embalming too, the
Exactly.
humidity.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
what is that? What is the humidity and the temperature making you kind of adjust and look for? Is it causing like excessive dehydration?
It depends on the condition of the body. Sometimes it causes dehydration. Sometimes it causes excessive color change. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is where I'd love to have a co-host right now. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's a long day and I'm tired. But
Yeah.
we can just hang out and chat. So, what's on your guys' mind? Like, this doesn't have to be, a formal interview. We just hang out and.
Yeah. I
So-
guess more for me, getting back on what you asked just now about our concerns. For me, it's more about bringing the culture that you guys have here. And well, in Mexico and also in the US, it's kind of like bringing that mindset and that culture kind of back to Malaysia, but adjusting it to our setting there.
Sure.
So it's like, how about sometimes when someone dies and they want the body to be brought back almost immediately, like they want everything to be done super fast, and sometimes it's not even about them not knowing that the embalming process is pretty extensive, takes a couple of hours. Sometimes when the person dies of whatever cause, it could be a different process. The process could be delayed.
Sure.
And people don't know about that. They think that they have been, I don't know how, but they have been brought to think that embalming is a 30-minute, 45-minute process.
The reason they were made to think that is because, like I mentioned to you, the primitive method of embalming is just basically injecting formaldehyde in the cavity, and that takes 10 or 15 minutes.
Right.
And how extensive can that get? But the good thing about families that we serve is that when we explain to them embalming takes time, they sort of receive it pretty well and they accept it.
Yeah.
And the better part of it is that they get pleased with the end result when we.
I guess it's all about the delivery,
right?
Of how we're delivering it to them.
Yeah.
And then they sort of get an idea of. They sort of get that idea and also trust us at the beginning.
Yep.
And then when the end result is delivered to them, then they sort of understand.
They go, okay.
Now I know what. Now I know what he was talking about.
They go, now I understand.
Yeah.
One of our friends on the show, Melissa, one time taught Ryan and I the way she said it was perfect. We've never forgot it. She says you set the expectations.
Exactly.
And what that means is you just tell them what to expect. I mean, this is what's going to happen based on your requests.
Yeah.
It's like you want a pizza. I'm going to need an oven and some ingredients.
That's right.
And I'm going to need some time with that.
Some time as well. I'm not going to give you a pizza in 2 minutes. Yeah.
Right. And and I don't know, as the world is progressing, everything's getting faster.
Yeah.
And in embalming, when you mention the word fast, people get uptight. But there are embalmers throughout this world that are under a time schedule culturally.
Yeah.
Some embalmers that we know in Belgium and Europe. But what is your guys' specifically schedule from the point of death to the time that body? And you said it does vary. We know that.
Yeah.
But culturally, what are they going to ask for?
So in Malaysia, typically, the time frame from the time of death till the time of retrieval takes about 2 to 4 hours.
Okay.
Depending on where the death happens, whether it's at a hospital or it's at a residence. And we usually tell families from the time we retrieve the body that to give us a good 6 to 8 hours to have the body prepared. Because in Kuala Lumpur, where we are, wherever the areas that we service, it takes us not more than 30 to 45 minutes to get there. So that leaves us
pretty
with
close by.
So that leaves us with a good 5 to 6 hours to concentrate in embalming.
Okay.
Yeah, but we just learned from our friends here in Mexico during this convention that they have a pretty tight schedule to work with, because Jorge was mentioning that they have to deliver the body back in like 2.5 hours, and that is a lot of pressure.
Oh, yeah, that's not pressure I have been under. And,
Yeah.
So when you're taken out of your comfort zone there, wow, and that's what happens to funeral directors where I'm at. Someone asks them to do something that they've not done before, and we react with, it's not what we do.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's not. And I would almost say almost every funeral someone asks me something that's not part of what I normally do. And I think, okay, do I have enough time? Can I do this? And that's kind of funeral service all over, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Wow, that's still pretty quick though. Same day, so
it is.
In America, it used to folks would go back to the home, and then they never even left the home for that matter.
Okay.
And then once they started leaving the home, this home started getting smaller. There's actually a home in America for the funeral and for other ceremonies throughout life called the parlor. And early on, they started calling them funeral parlors. So the natural progression was pretty easy. Houses got smaller, and they're like, okay, do we really have to keep mom here? They're like, your place is big. And so the embalmer went, maybe I need a bigger place.
Yeah.
Because people asked for it.
Okay.
That's the key, So, embalming is, I'm getting preachy, but, anything that we do as funeral directors, we don't take bodies. We don't do... it's not what we want. Everything that we've done has been asked of us.
Of course, yeah.
There's Mr. Nelson. He's back.
Yeah.
Wandered on in. So starting the funeral home in 2003, you're in a big capital city. How many people in the city?
We got about, I think, 12?
Yeah.
12, 15 million?
12 to 15 million.
Yeah.
So a lot of people.
A lot of people, yeah.
Are there a lot of funeral homes?
There are a lot. There are a lot of options
Most
for
don't
people.
last.
Yeah.
People open funeral homes and then within a year they wrap up because they
tough.
can't handle the pressure. They don't have the know-how. Because all these are important factors in making the funeral home last and serving the community. These are what people look for. Yeah.
That's right. And people want to they want to call someone whom they know, whom their community...
trust the name, who's
Yeah.
been there for a while. Not
Yeah,
someone
who's been
who's
serving
just-
their community for some
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't get many do-overs, do you?
You don't
Yeah.
really, yeah.
No, ever, really.
Yeah.
And that's why funeral service is so stressful.
It is.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but when I get around fellow funeral directors, I just get energized and I go right back home with a whole fresh outlook and just ready to get back to work.
Same.
Yeah.
Same, yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us maybe the percentage of embalming in Malaysia. I don't know if you mentioned that earlier.
You mean among all our cases, the percentage
Yeah,
of...
just kind of your guys' cases.
I guess about 90%.
Yeah.
90%?
embalming,
Yeah.
yeah.
In 20 years, you went from almost none or primitive methods
Yep.
to 90%.
Yeah, because once
90%.
people started seeing the outcome that embalming gave them, they were pretty pleased.
Yep.
And then word just got around. And then they would tell their family members that, hey, embalming's the way to go and go with these guys. They have the know-how.
Yeah, and even the methods from how it was last time and how it is now is pretty different because last
Yeah,
time...
because 20 years ago when we started embalming, we didn't have the proper embalming machines. We were just using a hand pump.
Well, we
Everything
didn't
was
even
still-
have a proper place because we were doing trade work and we were going to people's houses and embalming them on their beds. That's how it was, yeah.
Yeah.
Back then when we started embalming. And how we used to, when we followed our dad when we were young, that's how embalming was back then. Because culturally, for some religions, you can't remove the body from the house unless
right.
it's going immediately for a burial
Sure.
or for the cremation. So the embalming had to be done in the house. The transferring of the body into the casket had to be done in the house. So we went from that to now having our own facility, bringing the decedent into our care, caring for them properly, giving them the best that we can deliver to them, making them look their best, and then bringing that casket back home. And when the casket opens, the family they give us that look that you're talking
the
about.
look.
Just that they give that turn and they were like, wow.
That
Yeah.
is when someone makes a connection to something that they asked for.
That's
Exactly.
They
right.
asked you to get mom or dad ready.
That's
You
right.
said, hey, here's how I can do it.
Mhm.
You choose how.
Mhm.
And what they chose was embalming.
Mhm.
And they gave you the look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that is why, and this is what I've been trying to say here on the show. I've recently had a good grasp of it. When embalming really took off in America, is because a whole bunch of undertakers and people that made caskets saw the look. You don't see that look from caskets very often.
That's right, yeah.
And that's what I'm just calling a connection. And I call it, I said, and when I was talking in there, I called it the true meaning of Christmas.
Yeah.
Funeral style.
It is, yeah.
You understand what it's about. It's about your choices and a good outcome. And whatever your choices are, them being reinforced and having a positive outcome with help from us.
That's right. Yep.
I'm windy, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I sat with Nelson all night, so I didn't get a word in. So,
It's okay.
but what's on your guys' mind? Let's chat. We're on the beach, and I don't want to go in. And
Yeah.
there's what is that? That is not a
I
predator,
do not
guys.
know. Yeah. I hope not.
It's-
Oh,
it's
it's
a-
moving.
it's a
Yeah.
stork. It's moving. It's a stork.
Yeah. Wow.
Wait. I'm getting a picture. The podcast stork. I wonder if it brought a baby. That is gorgeous. Nelson's camera's way better.
Yeah.
Maybe it's mine. That is a stork. Hey, Ryan Ballard, this is a safe animal. Oh, goodness. So how many hours was the flight again? I know you told me. You had 2, though. You had a layover somewhere?
We had 3 flights.
Three
Flights to get here. Yeah.
So
That
we're
is
from Kuala
dedication.
Lumpur to Japan, and then Japan to Houston, and Houston to Mexico.
Okay, so how far from your capital to Japan?
Kuala Lumpur to Japan was 8 hours.
Only 8.
8 hours. Then we had like a 5 hours in Japan, and then Japan to Houston was another 13 hours.
13.
Yeah, and another 5 hours layover in Houston, and then Houston to here was like 2.5 hours.
Oh my
Or 2
gosh.
hours rather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
All that flying.
Ugh. Yeah, you guys live where I like to joke about, and I say the world will never end today because it's always tomorrow where you guys are at.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right. Yeah.
I love it.
That's a good one. Yeah.
What do you? So 20 years, my goodness! Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know how quick it was. It's in the record, the history books. We could go back and look for America.
Yeah.
But so this is what we're seeing. So folks have kind of attached embalming to religious services because that's what folks did.
Okay.
They had religious services and they had their dead there. So it was only natural that they would pick something that worked well.
Okay.
As folks got less religious and less close to those services, they stopped picking them. And they said, you know what, we don't need the priest, we don't need the church. We can use the golf course or the pub or wherever. We can do anything that fits our person. So in America, they're trying to get really, really creative, and they're doing different things in funeral service. So have you guys heard about alkaline hydrolysis and human composting?
Yeah.
We have heard about those. Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me with you guys at all.
Yeah.
And so what I'm seeing here, and I'm documenting in funeral service, is the folks that are giving these services to families who are actively choosing them, mind you. Those funeral professionals are seeing the true meaning of Christmas funeral style.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I wonder if there's a disconnect because they go, this is for everyone. And I'm going, no, man,
Not really,
that's just one side of the coin. There's a whole nother world on the other side, but plus when you flip it, it's a whole completely third world that you didn't even know about.
Exactly, yeah.
I'm not hearing you guys saying everybody needs embalming. I just heard you guys say when they want to take mom home, this may work really good.
Exactly.
Is that did I kind of rephrase that right for you guys?
Yeah,
Pretty
sort
much,
of.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So you guys didn't put up billboards and say this is the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, not really, yeah.
It just kind of went by a family seeing it and going
Exactly. We're just getting it subtly into the community, and
subtly
then
in the community, and really the families just they tell each other and then they pick it.
Yeah, they
Exactly,
pick it.
yeah.
Okay.
We just rely on them to, let each other know.
Okay.
And it gets
Yeah.
around very fast.
It gets around super fast because we're a small community and
Right.
the word gets around super
And
fast.
so when it comes to funeral service, my view is the things that are important are going to stay. The things, we can't force it. We can't force someone into something saying ways are better. Because no way is better one way or the other. It's the personal connection to it. You bring a Muslim family into a Catholic church, it's not going to be a real good connection.
Exactly.
Right?
Of course.
I mean, that's kind of a nice way to say it.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're just chilling on the beach, though. Hey, since Ryan's not here, you guys want to tease him?
Sure.
You guys have listened to the show a little bit, though, right?
I have, yeah.
No
I
kidding. Have you? No, you said you hadn't yet.
I hadn't yet.
You showed me you found it, though. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you guys had, I'm curious about the show and its reach, because I know it comes up on our data that we're in, over 55 countries.
Okay.
But it's so cool to be like, there's a face to the number over Malaysia.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I found you guys during COVID.
Okay.
Because that's when I was really bored and couldn't go out anywhere, couldn't travel. So, I did I listened to a lot of podcasts.
Okay.
And what better podcast to listen to than Undertakers and Embalmers?
Oh, thank you.
And when I found it, I was like, wow, this exists. And immediately I started listening, and that's when I got interested and followed you guys on social media. And
that's so cool.
yeah, and I guess that's where I a lot of my knowledge, a lot of information that I have and I share with my brother all the time is what I know from you guys' podcast.
Aww.
Yeah, and also
Thanks for having
Ryan?
something like this, Brian,
Yeah.
because it really gives us an avenue to hear other embalmers from around the world and to hear what other views they have, what other techniques they have.
it does, because sometimes
It's awesome.
when we just read stuff on the internet, it gets pretty boring and gets pretty lame. So when we find something like this and it's interesting, like when I go for a run in the morning, I can just put it in and I just listen to it and it's awesome. Or like when I'm driving, I just put it in and there's a lot of things that sometimes just boggles my mind what people are talking about. Like you mentioned just now about alkaline hydrolysis and human compost, which is something that we don't have in Malaysia at all
Yet.
It's something yet. Hopefully we'll be the ones to bring it in soon.
Sure.
But it's something that is not talked about, and if I were to tell that to my community, they'll be like, wow,
What?
that exists.
Something
Yeah.
like this exists.
Something
yeah.
like that really exists. You can do that. Yeah, and I guess it would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of what's cool is embalmers and funeral directors come to the world and say we can do this. We can do
Exactly,
a
yeah.
lot of things.
A lot of things,
And
yeah.
a whole bunch of stuff that we do isn't exactly our creation. It's a family asking us to do something that we don't normally do.
That's right. Yeah, and we just make it happen, and suddenly it becomes
hit,
norm.
yeah.
And if an embalmer happens to do it, you know damn well they're going to tell all their friends.
All their
Yeah.
friends
And,
about it. Exactly.
and you know what's kind of funny? It's not from the circles that I run in. It's not really a braggadocious thing. They're not like I did this as I beat my chest.
Mm-hmm.
They go, "You guys got to hear this story." It always
Yeah.
comes with a story.
Story, yeah.
And it's it's so funny to kind of watch the people like be around us though. I did move the chairs out of the way. Ooh, that storm. You feel that storm breeze?
Rolling in,
Yeah.
yeah.
That is some good podcast atmosphere right there, guys.
It is.
I'm dragging this one out so we can talk as long as you guys want. This is
Yeah.
beautiful out here.
Awesome.
How far are you guys from the beach? Oh, you told me a couple hours from the beach?
Couple of hours.
2?
Yeah.
Okay.
2-3 hours from the nearest beach.
Does it look like this on the beach? Like, do you guys have a lot of resort areas and things?
So 2 hours out from where we are, the beach doesn't get as good as this.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just
So do you guys have really nice beaches this around?
we do, but you have to travel quite a bit.
You do have to travel quite
Yeah.
a bit. Oh, okay. Yeah, because I don't know. I'm a landlocked guy, so I don't know much about beaches. So I got here. I'm like, kind of looks like Florida.
Yeah.
You know, without that, I mean, my small little bubble got a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
But my small little bubble got a lot bigger by talking to people that just do so many different things.
Definitely.
I loved hearing the stories about the folks from Mexico and
Yeah.
what's going on here and their embalmings, and boy, do they have some, with the heat. Though.
Pretty crazy stories.
Yeah.
They do, yeah.
Yeah. So that's okay. Here we go. Let's do this for Dad. I don't know if Dad's ever listened to a podcast before, but let's give him a reason.
Yeah.
What have you learned from your dad?
You wanna go first? You go first. You've been in training with him longer.
Because it was
so
his idea to do this.
Yeah.
You started with.
Yeah, you started with it.
So actually, he gave us a lot of motivation and a lot of guidance from the beginning, because he was the one that taught us that these are how families should be served, and these are how we would serve our community, so that we can up this game and get people to trust us and deliver the best quality of service compared to all the other funeral homes around. Yeah, and since we serve largely the more Christian and Catholic community, they require everything to be very gentle, very neat, very tidy, compared to a little others who may not require so much of precision and so much of care in handling them.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's one thing that Dad imparted in us, and he still is in the business right up to today, and he still oversees the operations. He still wants to play an active role, and yeah, we let him do it. And yeah, a lot of people still look for him because he has served like 2 or 3 generations in the past, and people
They're asking for
yeah
Dad.
they're asking for
They're
him.
asking
and
for him,
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be but they've been asking for you guys too, though, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Was
of
that a
course.
shock to your dad when they started asking for your
Of
names?
course, very much
Oh,
a
it
shock.
was.
Yeah.
It was a shock to him. Yeah. It was like he
Because
was.
of course the younger folk feel more comfortable dealing with us.
Yeah.
Because we can understand them, we can give them our views, and then it would make so much more sense to them than coming from someone 20 years older.
Yeah,
So-
he was pretty surprised. He's like, I'm still around, right? Like, I'm still here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember those first few days, those young days, when they'd get the phone would ring, they'd ask for me, and my dad would just look at me so strange, like,
Yeah.
they asked for you.
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
like,
We get that.
you know I work here, Dad.
Yeah.
You do pay me.
Yeah.
Oh, I love how that's so similar. People are people, you know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, there's so much that unites us, and that and I as I age finally into my 40s now, I just don't have any patience for just negativity. Like, there's too much stuff to do and too many awesome people to meet,
Yeah.
and I want to thank you guys for just sharing your story.
Oh,
and,
our pleasure.
Did I kind of end this show before you got to go off for Dad there, or did you?
Oh
kinda-
yeah. I mean, well, for me, I guess what I kind of learned from my dad was he's a really committed man. He's really committed. Like, he has his heart and soul into this, and that's why I would think that he would never. I mean, he would do this until he dies. That's the easiest way to put it.
Yep.
Like, he would sometimes, because both of us, we work in the prep room a lot, and it makes us really tired. But he doesn't know what's the meaning of the word tired. Like, he's always still at wakes, and he moves around a lot. He wants to be available for his
families, and then he's there at the wake. He's there when the visitations are happening. He wants to journey with the families.
Yeah.
And he's a minister. He leads them in prayer.
Oh, okay.
And
he doesn't just like go for the wake like a couple of minutes and then leave. Like,
he spends hours there.
Like, he's there for all the hours. Like, he makes sure he sees everyone, meets everyone. He wants the family to know that if anything were to go wrong, they can just look behind and
I'm right here.
And he's right there. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what he kind of taught us.
I'm curious about this. This just popped in my head.
Mm-hmm.
How is your family within the community
Mm-hmm.
looked as? Like, I'm trying to think how I would describe it in America. As funeral directors, it's not we're not celebrated in any way. Like teachers, farmers, doctors, the
Definitely.
typical ones that are celebrated.
Yeah.
Funeral directors are often ignored, but very appreciated when they need it to. But that we're actually held to, like, people have this ideal of us that we're just there, we're always there, but there's a certain thing that we're reliable, you can trust us, we're approachable. It's a safe
That's
place.
as far as it gets. But
is it similar there?
It is so much similar. It is so much similar. Back 20 years ago, we were really never looked at. People looked down on us because that 20 years ago in Malaysia was a taboo topic to talk about. So people are like, they don't want to be associated with a funeral director. Yeah.
So
but we saw that changing, especially during the pandemic. That changed so much because we were like the only contact between the family and their loved ones. We were the only ones who were like allowed to handle the dead bodies because families were not even allowed to get close. So that's where we saw this changing, and people felt that we're humans too, and we're going to help them have that final moment, that final goodbye.
They kind of felt really close to us because we were the only ones there instead of some stranger that they don't know, we were going to be there for them.
Right.
And we were going to give their mom or dad or
a
their loved
when
one.
they couldn't be part of it.
They couldn't be part of it. Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that up, COVID, because we had tabled that, and I didn't want to get too far down that road before we started. But what was it like living through that in Malaysia?
Well, it was hectic because the number of cremation facilities that we have clearly was crazy amongst the amount of deaths we were having.
They were not ready to accommodate that kind of numbers.
Right.
And initial stages of COVID, we weren't allowed to do burials, we weren't allowed to do embalming. It was just direct cremation. And cremation slots were backed up like 10 days, 12 days. Yeah, and there was only a certain amount crematories could handle.
How
even
long
when
did
they were running 24 hours a day.
How long did those health rules last? No burials, no embalming. And what got lifted first, if anything?
The burial rule got lifted because sometime they noticed they realized that this was not going to work. There was not enough cremations to handle the amount of deaths that were happening. So that's when they lifted the ban and they allowed COVID cases to eventually be buried.
Yeah, that was kind of a reactionary bad call there, because what you've done there is when you say, okay, everyone's getting cremated, you just said everyone that's not in the city, bring your dead to the city.
That's right.
And that's where the problem is, bring them all here.
That's
exactly.
right. Yeah.
Wow.
And some people were getting, some of them were upset because in Malaysia you can buy I guess that's common here too, but you can buy your burial plot before you die.
Okay.
And those who already have got their burial plots like ready, they couldn't be buried because if they died of COVID, they had to be cremated.
Oh no.
Yeah, and they spent so much of money on those burial plots, and at the beginning the only thing the government could tell them was, sorry, you can't be buried.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
sorry. We're just trying to be safe
We're just trying to be safe here,
and then
yeah.
in the end it was like, well, now we know that wasn't a good call.
Exactly. And the end, when they finally lifted the ban and they allowed burials, you can imagine the kind of reaction they would have had. Those families would have had to, the ban being lifted. They were like, what?
So, what was the amount of death in Malaysia? Was it as high, like, percentage-wise, as other, like, the United States? I know our level was rather high.
I guess for our community, for our scale, I guess the death rate was pretty high. We were, I think, doing 100 deaths per day at the highest point.
Yeah.
100 a day.
100, 200
yeah,
deaths
100,
per
200
day.
deaths. But
which
compared
is
to the
high.
population that we have, it's not as great as the United States. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But
and I'm talking 100 to 200, only COVID.
Only
in a
COVID.
day.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
was pretty high at the time.
Right.
So
Yeah.
crematories had to handle COVID deaths. They had to handle regular deaths as well. So it was really taking a toll on them.
Oh my goodness. So are you able to embalm COVID deaths now?
Not yet. They
Not
still don't
yet.
allow. Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Which is pretty funny because we embalm like bodies with diseases as well.
Right.
And like they still, I mean, the government allows that.
Right.
They allow that, but they still haven't allowed us to embalm COVID bodies, even though we've already approached them. But
It's really easy for a government, if they want to know about this stuff, you could just ask an embalmer or all of us. We'll tell you real fast. Shut it down.
Yeah.
We can't be embalming because we're all sick.
That's
Shut
right.
it down now.
Yeah.
You know what? Honestly, we would probably shut it down first.
Yeah.
Because we would all be sick.
Yeah.
Because we're going to do what a family asks. Until we figured it out that we're all getting sick.
That's right.
And that didn't pan out at all. So, I don't know. Okay. So looking forward, you guys got a lot of career left in you.
We do.
See, you more trips to, I'm trying to think east, west. I don't know. What do you guys call us? Are we the west to you or?
Yeah,
The West, yeah.
Okay, okay. You guys, okay. So more trips planned next year's Frigid conference. What do you think?
Yeah, of course.
Definitely, and also maybe NFDA.
Yeah, we plan to attend
plan to
NFDA
attend.
sometime soon.
Do you have
Yeah.
one of their machines?
Frigids?
Not yet. We're
Not
trying
yet,
to get
yeah.
one.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
So as soon as we can get our hands on one, we'll be testing it.
Nice.
And yeah,
That's one of the few I've not tried yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
I love
And
the features on their machine. It's really cool.
I mean,
Really.
just seeing, I am kind of excited that
it is. Yeah.
being that you can run all chemicals in it.
Exactly.
You don't have to,
And you have a
don't
mixed
have-
pretty
future.
interesting, yeah.
I think I did the hand gestures where I was using holding the bottle up to get
Yeah.
gravity pressure,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
like, and then you spill it everywhere, and
Yeah.
your both hands are tied up. So
Exactly.
I'm like, ooh, you can. Anyway, if you're wondering, embalmers,
Yeah.
just everyone's talking. So I don't know. It was a good time. I want to thank you guys for sharing and hanging out here.
Thanks for
and,
having us.
Yeah,
It was
It's been
pleasure.
awesome.
yeah. Share it. I mean, it's your show now. Take
All
it.
right, yeah.
Do whatever you want with it.
Awesome.
We're not really possessive about our stuff, so
Great.
we don't charge for it. We want people to listen to it. So,
Thank you. It was an honor. It was an honor, really.
yeah. Thank you so much. So Damien and Dominic,
That's
Jude,
right.
right?
Yep.
That's right.
That's right.
Thank
Thank you
you
so much, Brian.
Thank you guys.
Thanks for having us, Brian.
All
Bye
right.
bye.
A funeral will hold up in front of society the most noble, the most thoughtful, sensitive, caring, compassionate aspects of life. And you turn the mirror a little bit, and a funeral will also show you glaringly the selfish, cynical, unkind, insensitive, thoughtless side of life.
This is what my father will look like when he's dead, to myself. It was just like that. And then suddenly the tense all changed, and I said to myself, this is my father dead. That's how it happens.
The most special things you can have in a funeral, and the things that you'll always remember for families, are the things that actually don't cost any money.